folks, welcome back to Pop Pop Fizzle. I'm Jeff.
I'm Heidi.
And we're back with more of Marvel in the Disney Plus series Falcon and the Winter Soldier. More MCU.
Yay!
More interconnectedness. We just finished WandVision a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
And now we're back with a new series, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, picking up after the events of Endgame, we believe. Wherein Steve Rogers passed off his shield.
His torch, if you will.
Yes. His torchy shield. To Sam Wilson, a.k.a. Falcon, with seemingly the blessing of Bucky Barnes. So this series will pick up what it means to be Captain America post Steve Rogers, I'm assuming.
We think.
Probably what it means to be, to carry that burden, but also are some sections of America ready for a black Captain America? I mean, given some of the real life themes that MCU tends to pick up on, I would assume that's a question. We've seen in the trailers that he's not exactly going around in a Captain America outfit with the shield. It seems to be in question whether he is going to carry the shield or not. And I don't think Steve Rogers had a question about that.
No.
But it does make sense that that's a legacy that would be heavy to carry, and Sam Wilson is in a different position than Steve Rogers is in, and for all of their connections, both as their friendship and their experiences in the military and all those things, that's great. But there's still this disparity between them, and I think it'll be interesting to get a look at that through the lens of Sam Wilson, and it'll also be fun to feel out the chemistry between Bucky and Sam, both of whom had this great affection for Steve Rogers and what he meant to the world, but both very different men. And, we know Winter Soldier's carrying some damage from his time as an assassin, not in complete control of himself.
No. But correct me if I'm wrong, Sam Wilson did become Captain America in the comics.
In the comics, both of these men have become Captain America at one point or another. Bucky Barnes first, after the events of Civil War. Steve Rogers was killed in the comics, presumably. And after Hawkeye briefly pondered taking up the shield, decided that Bucky needed to be the person to do that. So Bucky reluctantly did, at the behest of people like Tony Stark and Nick Fury and that kind of thing. He was a very different Captain America, carried a gun, had an Alex Ross designed suit, which was really cool. Maybe I'll insert an image of that in here. But yes, most recently, when Steve Rogers left the role of Captain America for a little while, it was taken up by Sam Wilson, who has a really cool costume, kept the wings, kept the shield, and had a really good run. So I'm curious to see what comic influences they pull from for this series, and also what parts of the MCU that are holdovers that, we know that from the trailers that Zemo is going to be in this.
Yep.
We know that he doesn't feel completely successful in dismantling superheroes as he tried to do in Civil War. So what he's willing to do next is a question.
Yeah.
We know that we'll be seeing Sharon Carter because we've seen her in the trailers too, and we don't know what the fallout is for her in a world without Steve Rogers.
Yep. I believe this has 6 episodes.
I think so.
So this has
roughly an hour each, 49 minutes or so.
So probably the same runtime as WandVision, but put together in these almost regular
longer increments.
I was going to say regular 1 hour TV show. So if it were to air somewhere, it would be probably a little too long. But they could probably cut some stuff out.
And the creators of this show have made a point of saying this is not WandaVision. We're not building a mystery.
No.
You're getting week to week glimpses into this world, but we're not, it's not to serve the purpose of this greater mystery. This is a mainstream MCU kind of thing. What we're delving into deeper is not a mystery. It's these characters and what becomes of them and what they face in a world after Endgame and in a world after Steve Rogers is no longer part of the equation.
Yeah.
So, and I'm in. As much as I loved WandaVision for being unique and quirky and weird and focusing on a side of the MCU that we haven't really gotten before, I miss the MCU proper. I miss the feeling of superheroes existing in this world where there's a lot of chaos and a lot of nonsense going on, and not everything is into the world big. So I'm looking forward to seeing these two characters and getting to know them a little better. And then after this series is over, we'll have another break, and then Loki will be upon us, and who knows what kind of nonsense he's going to get into.
Oh, yeah.
But sure. I've been looking forward to this one. It does feel more like the MCU that we're used to, at least from the trailers.
Yeah.
I guess we may have a different perspective on that after we've watched the episode.
I'm ready to watch the episode.
Only time will tell.
No.
Now, if you're joining us for this, we need to make a couple of things clear. First, this is not a market substitute. Be sure and watch this show on Disney Plus. Support quality content. Because why, Heidi?
Because if we don't, then we might not get more.
This is true. And, we need to see those Disney Plus numbers. I'm sure this show is going to do well. But what's the point of spoiling yourself by watching our reaction without watching the episode first? Watch the episode first. Support the show. The second thing you need to know is that if you want the full reaction to this content, you can find that on Patreon. Now, normally, you'd pay the $5 tier to join Patreon and get access to all the shows that we do. But since this is the first episode of a new series, you can watch this with us for free. You just need to sync it up with Disney Plus on your end and watch along. So that link will be in the description down below. Be sure and check out Patreon for that. That's pretty much it. Like the content if you like it. If you don't like it, don't like it. Subscribe if you feel like it. And other than that, join us in the comments. Let us know what you think about this episode so we can talk down there.
Yep.
That's it. We're going to jump in right now. This first episode is called New World Order.
All right.
All right, here we go. That nice shiny new shield that Cap brought him.
Mm-hmm. How does it feel? Like it's someone else's. It isn't.
This has to be subtle. Subtle. Got it.
Woo. Oh, it's awesome. Hello. Oh, that's...
They've already hijacked the plane. We're gonna need to call some people.
I don't know who that is.
Baychok the Leaper. Captain America fought him in...
oh, that's right.
In, Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Hey!
It is.
Let's get you out here.
Oh, look out.
Yeah, this guy that plays Baychok is an MMA fighter in real life.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, you guys are just falling with style. He can fly.
Mm-hmm. Whoop. Bye. Oh, he sort of made it. Oh.
Call themselves the Flag Smashers.
Was that a new thing? Bad guys give themselves bad names?
There's a lot worse names than that one. Yeah, essentially these people, they want a world that's...
In the comics, Flag Smasher is a person. In this, it's a group.
People are into that.
It could still be a person.
Keep an eye on it. And he mastered posing stoically.
Ah.
The world has been forever changed.
Rhodey.
A few months ago, billions of people reappeared after 5 years away.
A few months.
Sending the world into turmoil. We need new heroes.
Crazy to think that nobody's going to be carrying the shield.
Hey, we went for 70 years without anybody carrying it when Steve was on ice, so I think we'll be all right.
It's a different time, Sam. So you're going to make me ask? Why didn't you take up the mantle?
When Steve first told me about the shield, the first words I said were, "It feels like it belongs to someone else." That someone else is Steve.
Half hour before last call?
I can't, guys. I have to prep for tomorrow's session.
Really?
Oh, well, that's problematic. Oh.
Hail Hydra.
can't see anything. I just see anything.
Are you still having nightmares?
No,
Thought so.
We've been doing this long enough that I can tell when you're lying.
I didn't have a nightmare.
I've seen her. Yeah. Lots of things.
Oh, come on, really? You're gonna do the notebook thing? Why? It's passive aggressive.
Talk, I write.
Okay.
Passive aggressive.
I crossed the name off the list of my amends yesterday. Don't worry. I used all your 3 rules.
So, rule number 1, you can't do anything illegal.
Hell?
What was rule number 2?
Nobody gets hurt. It's a big one.
Then why isn't it rule number 1?
Yeah.
The whole point of making amends is to fulfill rule number 3.
You know, you're a cynic, Doc. Of course, I completed rule number 3.
I am no longer the Winter Soldier,
I am James Bucky Barnes, and
and you're part of my efforts to make amends.
You don't have 10 phone numbers on this thing. No, and you've been ignoring the texts from Sam. Look, you've got to nurture friendships.
Being a guy from the 40s in therapy just seems like a recipe for disaster.
Yep.
Now that you've stopped fighting, what do you want?
Tacos.
Oh, that would be top of my list.
peace.
That is utter bullshit.
Horrible, Frank.
I was an
You're
I
terrible.
saw a lot of dead bodies.
Nobody made it past 90 this week.
So young. Such a shame.
You guys didn't order the usual, huh? Feeling like more adventurous?
You should ask her out.
Yeah, she's like 1/4 my
I'd
age.
like to take you out on a date. Bingo or a night of pinnacle.
Pinochle.
Pinnacle.
I'm really sorry about him.
Sorry. I'm game.
He had a job with a consulting company, and he was working abroad, and he was killed.
Oh, that was the guy we saw in the flashback.
Wrong place, wrong time, but
This is him making amends.
I never know what really happened to him.
Gambit? No.
Not everything about Louisiana has Gambit, honey.
It's the only one we know from there, isn't it?
Emerald? Bam!
Emerald's not a superhero.
Speak for yourself.
What if you had money to fix it up? Make it nice so you can charter it when you're not out working the waters.
Do you know how hard it was for me to come to terms with the situation? Why would you dig this up?
We can take a loan and consolidate everything.
Oh. Okay.
Well, if that's not the most adorably old-fashioned thing anyone's ever done.
Do you know who he is?
Probably not.
Ah.
It's been hard for him since his son died. I think not knowing how it happened is the hardest part for him. It really messed him up.
Yeah. It's one thing to make amends for things that you messed up and did something wrong. It's another thing to have to make amends for things that you weren't in control over. I worry that this guy's going to get himself in big trouble investigating this stuff.
Oh, yeah. Whoa.
Oh, that
Oh.
was...
That was kind of super.
So I don't know how jurisdiction works here, but I don't have to place you under arrest.
Oh.
Jeez.
I knew it, Falcon.
You have no income over the last 5 years.
How can you have income if you don't exist?
Sarah. I've been gone, like several billion other people. But if you look at our plan, I have government contracts. So that's proof of earnings. And I know for a fact that we qualify for an SBA loan.
Under the old terms, sure. But these days, with everyone just showing up, well, things tighten up.
We're going to get that loan. I don't care if I have to go to every bank in the city.
Just call Pepper.
I don't want to deal with this again.
Well, that's what life is, dealing with this.
You are so out of pocket for that.
So this is the leader of the Flag Smashers, huh?
Yeah, real nice guy.
I thought you were supposed to be monitoring them online.
I did, but you know, sometimes you gotta get your hands dirty, or
Your face kicked in.
Lucky that's all you got. He's strong.
He was. I mean, bro, it went dark as soon as it was all over.
Oh my God, Sam. You better look at this.
Unrest in the wake of recent events has left us vulnerable. Everyday Americans feel it. While we love heroes who put their lives on the line to defend Earth, we also need a hero to defend this country. It is with great honor that we announce here today that the United States of America has a new hero. Join me in welcoming
Your new Captain America.
What? Mm.
That is it for the first episode of The Falcon and Winter Soldier, New World Order.
Who was that guy?
I believe that is John Walker, who in comics currently is known as U.S. Agent.
Yeah.
He did take over for Cap for a while. He
Clown.
was a little unstable, but okay. I like the character in the comics.
All right.
He got done dirty by the government. He was a fan of Captain America, respected Captain America. Thought he was a little old-fashioned in his way of dealing with villains, but he, after he wore the shield and realized the responsibility of it, he and Cap became, at least if they're not pals, they at least respect one another.
All right.
So, now whether they go that route with him in the MCU, who knows?
Who knows?
That's Kurt Russell's son, though, playing that character.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say that jawline was really familiar.
Yeah. Yeah. So we saw him in, what was the World War II zombie thing that we went and saw?
Oh, gosh. I don't
with,
remember.
Ian DeCastecker.
Yeah, I don't remember it, but that was a pretty fun movie.
Yeah. He was the tough soldier guy in that movie, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good casting call for that particular character. A lot happened in what felt like a pretty short episode. Like that felt shorter than what I was expecting. But I think it was because we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Heidi, your thoughts first.
So we saw the Falcon.
Right.
And we saw the Winter Soldier.
We did.
All right.
Both.
We saw them both.
Now we know why the show's named that.
Okay. Yeah, but they have to be like in the same car.
Oh, you wanted them together.
Yeah. Buddy
Gotcha.
cop. Okay, so yeah, I really like this. I like the way that they kind of introduced both of them and kind of showed us where they are in their post blip sort of status. Right. I heard a couple of months, and we know that WandVision took place a few weeks after everyone came back. So here we are with where everyone is as far as timeline is concerned. I don't know, I mentioned, I think in one of the comments from one of our previous WandaVision reactions that, maybe we'll see where everyone was, during the events of WandaVision. And, so we just know that they weren't around. So we don't know exactly what they were up to in that time. Although Sam was probably with the military doing that undercover stuff. So,
sure.
And I guess if Bucky was pardoned, he probably has to stay away from things like that.
Possibly.
So that might be where those constraints were. And
my guess is, as he becomes more involved in the events of this series, we'll probably find out if there are like restrictions on him, or if he is working for the government as well on a as needed kind of basis, or what. We just don't have those details yet.
Yeah.
We know that Far From Home takes place about 6 months after the blip, so it's the furthest out that we've seen from the blip.
Right.
And it's interesting that these two MCU series so far have shown us,
the space in between.
Space in between, which is interesting.
Yeah, but it's nice to see what's what's happened. So really like that we're kind of setting up their personal lives and what was happening with them, in this time as well. So
I saw. Thankfully, I avoided most spoilers for this, other than that War Machine Rhodey was going to be in this, and we didn't see War Machine. We saw Rhodey, but
he wasn't fired.
That was the only spoiler that I saw. However, one of the reviews that I read that was non-spoiler mentioned something about Falcon and his sister needing a loan and being redlined out. And I was like, okay, I know redlining was a practice at a certain point in time that was specifically profiling people of a certain race to leave out of loans and housing and things like that. I know that existed. This, though, seemed not to be that practice, but more like you have nothing to show for the last 5 years, which is a real world, like anybody of any color could go into a bank and get turned down for a loan. Like I've been turned down for, new phones and all kinds of things throughout my life if I don't have enough credit to show that I'm capable of handling that or whatever else like that happens. So I just wanted to point that out, that somebody had specifically used that term. So I was waiting for that and kind of looking for it. And then when it got there, it was just like, okay, the guy was kind of douchey in the way he handled the whole thing, being so super excited to meet Falcon, but then not being willing to help or speak to somebody higher up even. Like that would have been helpful.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem to be a racial thing, in spite of what the sister kind of insinuated. It seems to be more of a, you got nothing to show. Now, granted,
and
it's
we also
dumb.
have twice the population than we did before, so
Right.
things have tightened up.
Granted, though, it's dumb to expect somebody to have 5 years worth of something to show if they were blipped away, and you know that.
Yeah.
But we've seen during the pandemic that when you're not prepared for a thing, any kind of thing can throw everything into turmoil, and there's a lot of chaos in the world on a good day.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that it was redlining necessarily. It was still disappointing, and of course, he was working with a small town bank and near where their situation is.
As we said at least a couple of times, he could probably just pick up the phone and call Pepper and get what he needs. Honestly.
Now, I think that probably his intention is, I want to go about this the way that people do this,
right? Because he didn't
regularly. He doesn't
want
to call in a favor or say, I'm the Falcon, I saved the world, can somebody do something for me? Yeah. I get that. Like, I totally get that kind of pride. Now, I think that Pepper Potts or any number of people with the resources would probably be willing to step in and help, but I understand him wanting to go about it his own way, and maybe he thinks his sister would balk at leaning into his hero thing in order to get that done.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would be getting turned down for loans post-blip.
Yeah, this is just a couple of months,
Yeah, and the economy has to be
just terrible.
That's something I don't want them to dive too deep into. I don't want to get into the more mundane side of the blip.
That would
but
be very boring.
Realistically, the economy would probably have tanked as soon as billions of people showed back up on the planet.
Again,
it would disrupt everything.
Yeah, it had finally had a chance to sort of adjust to losing half the world's population, to have it adjust back up again immediately. So I'll bet those dolphins aren't swimming in any of the Hudson. The Hudson, And I was going to say any of the harbors, but the rivers in New York.
And, when you think about just little things, like we know that there have been events near us that, are starting back up again for the first time in a year. And because they're starting back up, they don't have the volunteers necessary to do. So consider a blip where billions of people have come back. You've only got so many jobs, and you've got people in all these jobs that maybe they weren't even trained for, but they had to step into because somebody disappeared that used to do that job. And now you've got all these things and you're just barely running. Just because 4 billion people show back up doesn't mean that you have spaces to put them. Doesn't mean there's work to be had. It doesn't mean that there's
money to be loaned.
That there's the infrastructure to rev up, to pull in people into those jobs and build up again. So there's a lot of stuff there. But I do like on the racial side of things, I do like this notion that there's what Sam feels, which is that he's not sure he's ready to to carry the mantle. And then there's, the government guys who convinced him clearly, that was the same guy, convinced him to give the shield up.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, now we're okay with picking this, white dude to carry the shield because he's our guy and he's, represents what we want him to represent or whatever.
That's kind of ridiculous.
I think it's good to deal with the hypocrisy of that.
Yeah.
And to deal with the fact that there are, unfortunately, some people in the world that would have an issue with that sort of thing. For all the wrong reasons. And, it's one thing to have an issue with somebody for, actual reasons,
Personality
what they
issues.
stand for, how they lead or how they've lived their life or whatever. There are plenty of reasons to have an issue with somebody. Skin color should never be one of them. But I think it'll be interesting to see
How they
Sam grow into, because I fully suspect that by the time this show is over, he will have accepted this mantle and moved into that role. But I think it'll be interesting to watch that journey, because not only do you have the blip hanging over your head, but you've got
family
what
issues.
Steve expected of you. You've got family issues, and you've got the fact that you kind of reneged on what you had sort of committed to for Steve. And because you did, now the government's doing this nonsense over on the side.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to deal with that too. So, so many things at play here. And I'm really excited to see how they work through them.
Yes.
On the Winter Soldier side, I think it's seeing him in therapy is hilarious.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was the best. Just having him like toss stuff back at his therapist, because it's anytime we see therapy sort of put out there on any entertainment platform, we always see like kind of like hard truths and sort of like acceptance from the person who's being who's going to therapy, and we just hear him lobbing stuff back at her. Like,
yeah, well, and consider
he's 106.
Yeah, I was going to say, consider putting anybody from World War II in therapy when psychiatrists were considered head shrinkers and all the derogatory things back then. It might as well have been voodoo for them, So putting him in that situation, although he's had time to adjust to modernity a little bit,
he's still 106.
he barely had a chance to adjust before he got blipped away. So or snapped away and blipped back. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see him in that position. It was good for some comedic gold, but also hopefully will be helpful for him in realizing that he needs people. He needs to fit somewhere.
Yeah.
This whole situation with this older gentleman that he's befriended as part of his
That makes me so
amends.
sad.
Yeah, it's sad because he's torn between, do I continue to help and be someone in his life that can help him, or do I tell him the truth to give him closure, and that ruins what I've built, what we've built here.
Yeah.
But yeah, go on him, or good on him for being a good wingman to
Get that
to
date.
Bucky.
Yeah,
To
get that date
underway.
that
Although
well,
him storming out, I'm not sure it's going to
I was
be.
going to say that I don't think there's going to be a second date
Maybe
on
not.
that. Probably not. Although she might be somebody that pops up again, we'll have to see how that works out. But
Maybe.
We'll see.
Anyway, I think that's it for us with this first episode. It really was just an introduction into what this series is going to be about. I'm excited to see more.
Me too.
And we will be back with the next episode next week. Thank you for joining us again. If you want to see that full reaction, you can do that at Patreon. That link is down below, and it's free for everybody, that first episode. So just follow the link and sync it up with your Disney Plus account.
All right.
Let us know in the comments what you thought. Until next time, folks.
Bye.
Bye.